Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I might have just busted my mic right there by screaming, but hello, Star Wars fans. We're back with another Starlight podcast, and we're going to have a barn burner for you here today. We're here with the Motley crew.
Ooh.
We've got Daddy Sheev, John Bates, and we've
Hello,
got
hello.
Dagovere,
Let's go. Let's
my
go.
worthy opponent.
Let's go. I'm ready today, baby.
So
Let's
today,
go.
so today we're going to be talking about The Last Jedi, and this is something that I really am passionate about talking about The Last Jedi. So is Dagovere, and Jonny is, from what I know, kind of in the middle, like towards the not liking
Mm.
kind of thing. But
Uh, Yeah,
let me just start with saying, like, what are your thoughts on The Last Jedi on like a very high level
Yeah.
scope? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
whoever wants to start, go ahead.
Yeah.
I, I,
Before we get into it, I want to approach this specific podcast differently. I want to know like your feeling on everything, and I think starting, yes, just like you want to, Daddy Sheev, is like the general, like, how did you feel about this movie, and how did you feel right after? That's what I want to get into. That raw potential. If you could summon that back for me, please, thank you.
okay. So if I remember correctly, I remember walking in the theater to see this. I think movie came out what 2017. I remember being very excited. I mean, it was Star Wars. I enjoyed Seven. It was kind of a copy of New Hope, but I was excited to see it. And I walked out of the theater. I'd say I was pretty satisfied. And then I watched it again a couple more times, and then I was kind of thinking about things and I mean, it's not the worst movie in the world. It's not nine. Like that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like would I watch it again if it's on? Yeah, but I kind of like him indifferent a bit at this point. And then I'm here with Connor, who's in love with it, and I know Dagovere has some strong opinions, but that's kind of where I'm at with this film. Is like, eh, eh.
Mm. Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. 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 All right, Connor. All right, Connor. Let's go. Let's hear it. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I set the
so
tone.
so
You see what you
so
got.
I walked into this movie. So my journey with Star Wars is like I was absolutely obsessed with Star Wars as a kid. And like up until about like middle school, high school, I took like a pause on Star Wars, not for like any particular reason. There just like wasn't that much going on in Star Wars in general. And so I didn't see The Force Awakens in theaters. So I was basically The Last Jedi was one of them. Either it was either Rogue. I forget. Rogue One came out before The Last Jedi, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
So I saw Rogue One was the first movie that I'd seen in Star Wars in a while in theaters, and I was so excited to see The Last Jedi just because it's like, hey, like that's when I started to lock back into Star Wars, and I was super excited to see it. I didn't really go in with any expectations because I wasn't in like a super deep lore. Like I've been watching some theory videos about who Snoke was and things like that, if I remember correctly. But I just kind of went into it blank slate. And when I finished watching the movie, I was like, this was really cool. Like this is what it felt like to watch. Like for me, it was like this is like a cool Star Wars movie, and like the visuals were fantastic for me. Like, I just got this feeling of like excitement and like, oh, like that's really cool. I was disappointed that Luke died, but like I gotta like it's just kind of brought me back to when I was a kid. Like, oh, this is cool. Like this is Star Wars, and that was my initial thoughts.
Yeah. So so just a little too long didn't read before I was homeless right after Force Awakens came out. I actually found money and watched the Rogue One when I was homeless. So going into the Last Jedi, because that we've never had that as Star Wars fans before, like a movie and then a standalone movie and then another movie. So that was I was just like, hey, bro, like the Last Jedi could be like the greatest Star Wars anything ever. And when I saw that trailer, because I'm not someone who watches trailers like consistently, I saw that trailer once and that was it. I go in just bare, naked and go in there and hope to see what goes on because I can't. It's Star Wars. I obsess over it. So if I see frames too many times, I know it's going to happen in this movie. Nothing could prepare me for the emotions that I felt about this movie. I went in there with my Thrawn Treason or Thrawn Alliance book, whatever one that had come out at the time, and I was sitting there reading it before. And I had all these people asking me questions because I guess I was the nerd that brought the book. So everyone was just asking me like, "Hey, what do you think's gonna happen? Hey, what you know, what do you? All right, guys, let's just watch the movie. I don't know." So watch it, and in the first 3 minutes of this movie, I was upset because of how General Hux, the way they made General Hux, like so silly. I thought I was watching a Marvel movie, like genuinely. I just didn't like that type of funniness in Star Wars. It just made General Hux seem so silly, right? And then everything else happens in the movie. Luke Skywalker throws the lightsaber, and my homeboy is Anakin Skywalker. So when Rey was picking and using that lightsaber, I was like, "Oh my god, boy, let's go! This is Anakin times 2." And then Luke, first time you see him, and we all got all the freaking theories about, oh my god, Luke Skywalker is over here on Octu. Maybe Mara Jade's grave is there. I don't know what's going on. He's talking about the Last Jedi in the trailer. Is he a gray Jedi? So, I'm sitting there watching this stuff, and he throws the lightsaber over his stuff, and I felt butthurt and offended, instantly, frame one. And the rest of the movie happens, and I was very empty, guys. Like, I was just very depressed when that movie happens. And we're going to get to everything else why, because I don't want to go too into this, but I was so depressed that I literally went back in line, got another movie ticket, and watched the movie again just to make sure. Like, because I do not like being like everybody else. I had to make sure that what was going on here, right? And it made me even more sad the second time I watched it. So that's how I felt. That's how I continuously feel. It's probably the most negative emotionally charged movie that I've watched about Star Wars, outside of like Revenge of the Sith, where I'm just shocked and sad and feel hurt because of Anakin, But that movie is very hard for me to accept, So that's how I feel, and I can't wait to go against Connor today about this.
Polar opposites, right?
Yeah. But
is like,
mind you, my view about these things is not toxic. I have a very Lando view when it comes to this. I don't agree with it. It is what it is, but I accept it,
Mhm.
But this, my boy, I don't know if this podcast is gonna be less than an hour today, or because man, dude, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, and I think at the end of this podcast, like, hopefully I will have explained myself about the things I really like, because there's things I don't like about the movie and things that I just like kind of throw away, which is honestly like every Star Wars movie. There's some like I get that feel like there's some spots where I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, so there's stuff that I feel about every Star Wars movie that I see in this movie, and there's stuff that I absolutely love that they went for it. That's the biggest thing that I liked, is that they tried something different as well. Because I have a huge critique with like episode 7 for me is like it's like classic Star Wars. Like, yes, like it was a good introduction. I just I don't feel the need to watch that movie again. Like, I see stuff that has happened before with the Death Star and another Death Star and a third Death Star, and that stuff to me was underwhelming. But when I saw this movie, and I was like, oh, like this is something that hasn't been explored in Star Wars yet, and like cutting yourself off from the Force and that stuff is what really piqued my interest, and I'm super excited to kind of get into that and hear your thoughts too, because there may be things that I hadn't realized about this movie that will change, my perspective on it. And same with you. Like, there could be, a bunch of different things that we all talk about, that there's something that you noticed that I didn't notice, and that, but yeah, no, I'm super excited. So where do we want to start? What do we want to start with this,
well,
with this
should we
discussion?
start with the beginning? Because I know Dagovere said right away within 3 minutes he was pissed off. Do we want to start there with like
I don't mind. Because for me at least, I would love to see how both of you reacted to the way that this movie kind of made characters very different. Like Poe is another one where like Poe is an asshole in this movie, and every time I watch it, I'm just like, damn, bro, like Poe is very unlikable in this movie. Even at the end of the movie where he's yelling at C-3PO, I'm just like, dude, like what is up with this stuff and with this guy in this movie? Because I think also, Connor, you're talking about stuff that you don't like too. We're going to talk about Finn. We're going to talk about Rose. And these are, in my opinion, glaring issues with this movie that were like, what happened with the trajectory of these characters because it practically sidelined them for the rest of the
Yeah,
series. You know,
and man, I'm
um,
still mad
yeah.
about that.
And that can also be said about General Hux too, because at the beginning, at the end of The Force Awakens, Connor, you may not love that movie, but I love it because it makes me understand that Disney and everybody else in charge understood what Star Wars was about. Like they got it right in a sense. Like, yeah, I know it's rerun, but like this is like your resume to help me understand. This is your cover letter to help me understand that you know what this is about. And to me, it did. That's why I liked it. It was safe. It was nice. And it gave me reminiscence. And I was like, great, awesome. And then this guy comes in I've never heard of before. And then he makes General Hux face plant right in the middle of the movie. And Poe is talking about his mother like it's a Marvel movie. Just very weird. And just I couldn't respect the rest of the First Order for the rest of the trilogy. You know?
Yeah, speaking of the First Order, the one gripe I do have with 8 and the sequels in general is just they made the First Order just kind of like clunky and like cartoony villainy. And I don't want to bring up Andor in this podcast, but we see, but we see the Empire.
Andor mentioned. Andor mentioned.
Andor
How many
mentioned.
times am I going to mention Andor merchant over here? But we just see in Andor and even the original trilogy just how scary the Empire is and how they feel like an actual threat. I just felt with the First Order, especially in 8, just felt like cartoonish and incompetent.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I agree with you on kind of that point, Dagovere, about Hux and the First Order, but
no, I agree. Like that, it is different. Like, and I think for me, it's I don't know how to it. For me, it's like I tend to focus less on on that stuff when I think about this movie, because there are like definitely like different directions that these characters go. But for me, like the stuff that I really, really love about the movie is like my favorite stuff in Star Wars ever. So I think that's why in my rankings it shoots up. That doesn't mean I don't have criticisms because because that stuff is valid. Like it's a different way of exploring those characters. And with Hux, it's like I think they probably focus more on Kylo Ren being the threat and Kylo Ren being like the main focus as opposed to like the First Order in general, because I see this as almost like I mean, obviously they kill off Snoke, and
I actually like that. We can talk about it later.
I do. I love.
I actually thought that was kind of a twist. Like I didn't really think that was coming, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think most of my criticisms with the sequel trilogy go towards 9. Like, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but like,
no, I
it's
agree.
the Last Jedi podcast. We're gonna jump over places.
We can make fun of 9 later. I'm all down.
Sure. But my thoughts are that specifically with like some of the character choices that are made, like J.J. Abrams set some stuff up, and then Ryan Johnson took it a certain direction, and then J.J. Abrams was like, dude, that was not cool, and then just like kind of threw everything away from the entire trilogy. So which is a problem overall without, So, but no, I agree with like the kind of Marvel humor stuff like that, can definitely rub you the wrong way. Comparatively.
Yeah, and it's not like Star Wars isn't silly and goofy. It's just at this point where like
weird in the
and it was too much to the point because this is modern day, and we already know stormtroopers are not seen as something that's like, oh my god, stormtroopers are on screen scary. No, they're already cannon fodder. Like no one cares. We already joke about them missing shots and everything. We don't need to make them more of a joke, and then we also don't need to make the main leader of these people, General Hux, who is, in my opinion, was so compelling in the first movie because although he was not a Force sensitive, he was clearly so diabolical and insane that this dude was crying when he was killing trillions of people. And then just goes to, he can't even understand or be self-aware that Poe is tooling with him the entire time. It's just like, oh God, dude, like, what are we doing? Like this is one of the main people on screen that needs to compete with Kylo Ren, because even though The Last Jedi is the best Kylo Ren movie, like we still need a villain. We
Yeah.
still need a villain. We don't know who Snoke is. He has less screen time than the Emperor does, and then in that same time, he's dead. And there is no one to replace him outside the guy that was getting told about Yo Mama jokes, and Kylo Ren, who is very conflicted even still, although he's a very great character. It's just very frustrating to see that, because now all we have is the jokes, and then the Canto Bite, and then everything that we're going to talk about with Luke Skywalker. So
And I
dude.
think Luke Skywalker is where our opinions are like the
Yes.
farthest apart, because I absolutely love the journey that Luke Skywalker goes through in this movie. I think it's like such like, because Luke Skywalker at this point is as a character, there wouldn't be a whole lot to do, in my opinion, with it. Well, actually, I don't know, but like in my opinion, like taking that chance with that character and making him like relatable and like making mistakes, like that, to me as a person who has made the same mistake multiple times, has gone through stuff after succeeding stuff, like that stuff hit me and I related to that. And I like remember thinking that in the theaters, like, oh, like Luke Skywalker is not there right now, but he gets to there at the end of the movie. He gets to the legend gets back to the legend at the end of the movie. So
Yes.
that character journey for me is something that I really like in this.
Yeah. I think it's geez. I mean, I could talk hours about this, but I will say I do not appreciate that character arc as much as everybody else, because it's just harder for me to see Luke in the situation, not in like he messed up or he makes flaws, like, because dude, he makes a lot of issues, bro. I mean, like, I read Dark Empire, and this guy literally allows Leia almost to get killed by the Emperor, and he's literally watching Leia get shocked by force lightning, and the Emperor is even more powerful than he was in Return of the Jedi. And then he also grabs Han Solo's neck, almost kills him, and does all these things, and turns to the dark side and serves the Emperor. So it's not like it's hard for me to see Luke in this state. It's hard for me to understand that Luke allowed himself to be in this state for so long, to the point that there was calamity happening. That is like the issue that I have. It's just like, okay, he messed up. He had a problem. Okay. I mean, he is his father's son, bro. Of course he's going to mess up. And, they're Skywalkers. They're part demigod in the Force, so, they're also part of that light side / cancerous dark side, that we talk about. So they're going to have problems. But Luke Skywalker's arc is very interesting, because I want to talk about, the intricate parts about that arc, and also the choices from the directors and the power that they had, if you guys are willing and comfortable to talk about that too.
Yeah, sure. I can, and Johnny, feel free to chime in anytime you would like.
Yeah.
Because
no, sorry, I had a text real quick I had to address. I was still listening.
No, you're good.
The one thing I'll say about Luke's arc is I can kind of see going for. I mean, they opened up with like a map to him. Like, dude was hiding out for God knows how long. Like, obviously he had something going on. But what saddens me the most is like interviews from Mark Hamill saying how off the bat when he read the script, like it was just a fundamental difference of how he saw his character. And that's why I think I have such a problem with how they handled Luke in the sequel trilogy. So that's what I'll say for now on that. If we want to dive into some of the director decisions, but that's like kind of off the bat that rubbed me the wrong way. Of the character himself was like had a problem with what his character turned into, which I think is really sad.
Yeah, and someone that thinks that, to me, The Force Awakens is one of the best Star Wars movies. Like, if I'm going to put it up there with Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and Revenge of the Sith, it's at the very end of that tier, right before it goes into like mid or like B, and then to the highest. It's right at the very end. But I cannot completely blame the people responsible for The Last Jedi for what happens with Luke, because it starts out in The Force Awakens. He's not there until until the very end. Yeah, exactly. And that is another problem, which is what we'll probably end up talking about. The same things that everybody's been talking about for the last like 6 years is the vision and the direction of multiple directors instead of one director. So yeah, and that's just they're never going to escape that type of criticism. I fear. Yeah,
it was a fundamental problem
From the
Yeah.
that
beginning.
I'm not sure whose decision it was. Um, but like that in and of itself, without having one person to steady the ship for the
Yeah.
story, it's tough because then what ended up happening was, hey, JJ's here, Ryan's here, and then JJ's, oh, we'll bring it back to this side. So it's just as a viewer, you're going, whoa, 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 whoa. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's definitely tough for and like I said, I don't know whose decision that was. I don't know if it was like a Kathleen Kennedy, if it was like I don't know who it was. But just that decision was something that suffers
Yeah.
the entire trilogy suffers from.
The whole thing. Yeah. And what I will say is this, like, there was clearly a plan going into The Force Awakens of some kind. And
Set it up.
maybe JJ didn't want to do the second one, and Ryan had to step in. And then Ryan didn't want to do the last one because of whatever the hell happened in the reception of The Last Jedi, which I totally understand. But I will say this. I think Kathleen Kennedy should be honored with the decision making that she had with a lot of these processes, because although I cannot stand the idea of someone like Ryan Johnson or J.J. Abrams coming in and just making decisions like I saw in The Last Jedi, Kathleen Kennedy gave them the keys. Kathleen Kennedy say, what is your vision? I'm going to help you execute this to whatever you need to do. And she I don't know. I mean, like, some people think it was the greatest thing ever. To me, I think that there's irreversible damage that this movie did to Star Wars, and we'll get into that. But Kathleen Kennedy had that power and did that for everybody. And all those people that love this movie, Kathleen Kennedy's the hero. Kathleen Kennedy's the reason why Mandalorian exists. Kathleen Kennedy is the reason why a lot of stuff exists. And I think as much as people blame her for a lot of the stuff that they don't like, which is not entirely true, I feel like a lot of it, but she needs to be commended, I feel like, for how she handled it and the power that she gave these directors in creative direction, because I don't think anybody else in Hollywood would have done that.
Mhm.
So that's the positive that I can say about that, and someone like Kathleen Kennedy handling it. But I do not have a lot of positivity to say about Ryan Johnson. So we'll or JJ, and we'll get to that later.
Ryan Johnson, it's funny enough, I saw The Last Jedi, and I really liked it. And then I ended up watching like Knives Out,
Yeah.
Glass Onion. Those are some of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it just so happens,
so
I was like,
funny.
wait, Ryan Johnson directed this movie? And
Yeah.
I absolutely love those
Yeah.
movies. So
I love those movies more than Last Jedi.
yeah.
I really enjoy those movies. And it makes me realize, like, this guy's actually a pretty good director. Like, he knows
Yeah.
what he's doing. But Jesus Christ, I have to make sure if he's around my Star Wars IP again, I don't want to touch him this stuff. But
Yeah.
but I would still. Well, I really think that he should be partnered with Leslie Headland, like, straight up. I think those two would do really good together.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like they cover each other's stuff. She has the knowledge of Star Wars, what can work, and he's the director, he's the writer. But yeah. What about you, Daddy Sheev, baby? Let's go.
What, with just like as a general?
Yeah, I mean, like, Kathleen Kennedy, Ryan Johnson's direction, J.J. Abrams' direction.
I mean, we kind of talked about it. It's just like from the jump, just changing directors like that is just always going to lead to just confusion, ego between the directors. They should have, like Connor said, just pick one guy and rolled with it. That's just kind of how I feel in general about the sequel trilogy. And the more, God, the more I think about it, the more I just hate 9. God, we need to do a podcast about 9. Jeez, I feel like that 9 upsets me.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe just being haters. But not in 8. Like, I don't.
So Johnny, your opinion on the movie is that it's like, where would it be on your
It's just
ranking?
like-
Would it be at the
it's-
bottom, or
it's
would it
not,
be?
It's not the worst thing ever created. I'm basically in between you two.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think
so
it's
you're
just
mid.
a
It's
very
mid.
average
Yeah.
Star Wars movie that has some cool direction, but also has some really stupid moments.
Yeah.
Um, I'd probably rank it if I were to rank it. Probably, if we're doing like the core nine, I'd probably put it at 6 or 7. Um, I'd put it ahead of nine. Obviously, you can tell how much I don't like that movie, and probably like 1 or 2. Probably 2. I'd flip it between maybe Phantom Menace. Between Phantom Menace and 8 is probably like I'd probably put between 7 or 6. Um, but yeah, there's definitely some cool parts with it. I like some of the direction, but then there's some of the direction I can't stand, like the Luke stuff and Leia force flying back into the spaceship after getting blown out, and just other stuff in the film.
Oh my god. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Dagovere. I reminded him of that.
Oh, dude, I
Really
was so
stupid moment
heartbroken.
in
No,
the
I was so heartbroken about Admiral Akbar, bro. I like,
No,
and
that's
I
what I'm
guess
saying too. They
I
killed a bunch of like key characters in that too. And then Leia, who the actress has, at this point passed away. She just like Superwoman like goes back into the ship. I don't know. There's just
that one I
I
don't
can
have
rant
as
about dumb
much as a
stuff, but
problem.
like
All right, so all right,
yeah.
my big
Bring it
thing
back. Let's bring it back.
was lore. All right, so my big thing was lore. Like,
Yeah.
there was a lot of things happening in this movie that hadn't happened the way that they did in the expanded universe. They've happened in the expanded universe, but again, execution. What are we doing here? Like, Leia surviving is not that impressive to me. Like, it's just like, bro, she's a Skywalker at the end of the day. Force sensitives, as we know, have this like force barrier around them. It can happen. Would I have done that way, like Superman in the outer space? No, I would not have. I would not have done that. I think there needed to be someone should have said like, hey, Carrie Fisher's a doll and all, but like, she's kind of stiff at this age. Maybe we can make this a little different. Maybe we could have people seeing her and make a reflection or something. I don't know, but I wouldn't have done that. But killing off these side characters like Admiral Akbar to me just goes off again into this idea that everybody else is a meme around it. Like, they are not important, you know? And I love the actress that was Holdo because Jurassic Park and everything else that she's been in.
Oh,
But it's very hard for me to accept a new character when you have characters that are already in this franchise and have been in this franchise for a very long time, and we just say no to them. That also happens with like C3PO just getting like one little tiny wink from Luke Skywalker in this movie, you know? And this is a really big problem that I have with Ryan Johnson coming into this movie. Because if you watch the behind the scenes, and I've seen this behind the scenes so many frustrating times, and the first thing this guy says is, coming into this movie, he does this, I absolutely have to kill Luke Skywalker. Why? Why is that a choice? You can do everything that you want to in this movie. And I'm going to say something that might shake the world, but Last Jedi becomes the best Star Wars movie ever if you do not kill Luke Skywalker. Because not only did you show us that he could have a story arc, now we have him alive and ready to go as the legend that we all believed he was from the expanded universe in episode 9. And he's not permanently killed. Like, that type of freedom from somebody who considers them a fan, who, in my opinion, isn't necessarily delved into Star Wars lore enough, that is where somebody should have said, no, you can't kill this character yet because we need to make money for the last movie. You can't kill this character yet because you can do anything. Blow up Coruscant, rip Rey's eye out, something. I don't know, but we cannot have this character die yet because they have not seen him in this movie, and you can't bring him in for the first time, just like you did Han Solo, and kill him off.
yeah,
You
just
know,
killing off iconic Star Wars characters like that.
and
That was a big
and
problem.
it's
I
not
had.
that it's not like even the arc, because the arc is meaningful to Ryan Johnson, and I get it, to the story that you're trying to tell. I get it, but like, killing him off, I just felt was like such a personal thing for Ryan Johnson, and I think that was just too insensitive of Star Wars fans that have loved this character and have not seen this character for 40 years. I don't think that was the right decision.
Let me ask you, because I'm curious about this.
Absolutely. Please.
So Luke at the end of The Last Jedi and I always say that what Luke does in The Last Jedi is the most powerful thing that we've seen
Yes.
with the
Yeah,
Force.
the force
Yes.
projection is so
So
sick.
what would be something that, like, in that next movie, let's say he lives, right?
Yeah.
What is his role that isn't the main character? Do you know what I mean? Because Luke is
Passing the torch.
Passing
Passing the torch. Officially. Like, for real.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely passing the torch. That is the movie that Rey and Kylo Ren are supposed to come together and take out whoever the fuck they want to replace Snoke with, who we don't know, you know.
Or make
But
Kylo the big bad guy.
if Kylo is sitting there, imagine this 2v2. You got the Emperor and Luke Skywalker, and then you got Rey and Kylo Ren. And then Leia dies because of whatever happens. And of course, this is much easier to do now because I'm just fixing the mistakes. It's much harder to actually make the story when there's nothing there yet. But like, I'm just envisioning, like, we're seeing 2-on-2, you know, two big bads, whether it's Kylo Ren and Snoke versus Luke Skywalker and Rey, you know, or Kylo Ren and the Emperor versus Luke Skywalker and Rey, you know. And then in that moment, something happens where Luke is like, she is the chosen one. She is the one. Just like my father before me. She is a Skywalker. You know? Like, it's that type of me, because that is the point. I just feel like that arc was just only to kill off Luke Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
Where it didn't need to be. Where it just didn't need to have that ending, bro. He literally could have just collapsed at the end of that when he's on Octu and been okay and go to sleep.
Yeah,
You know?
Eddie like just forced climax.
Oh
Bam.
God! Like, it was so sudden. Like, it was just so sudden, and I'm sitting there like, I'm enjoying that scene. I'm just like, holy shit! He's got the blue lightsaber. He's like Anakin, you know, because that made sense to me. He didn't feel like he was like the green lightsaber was his anymore.
He's a see around kid.
Yeah,
and
yeah. But in that moment, in that scene, Connor, that blue lightsaber means so much more to everybody in that moment, because everybody has had that lightsaber when they start their journey. Anakin, Luke, Rey. It was like a whole new beginning. And then he dies. No, he doesn't even die. He's not even killed. He just says he quits the game.
I'm gonna head out.
Yeah, that's what he did. He just
he does this. He's like, I'm gonna head out.
He just quits the game. He just quits the game, and he's just like, all right, bro, that was it. Deuces.
Yeah, literally, that's how he died. Yeah, that's like the biggest Dagovere. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
That rubbed me the wrong way when they just, you know, Luke just, you know, died. How do you feel about that, Connor?
Yeah, no, I was disappointed. I was disappointed when Luke died. Like,
okay.
No one wants to see Luke Skywalker die.
I think he could have died, just not that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
you can kill Luke, but like, not like that.
If him and Kylo Ren, if the Emperor and Kylo Ren team up and kill Luke, I would have thought that shit would have been peak.
Or Luke sacrifices himself or something, goes down
right.
grandstand, like final duel. Like, that's awesome. That's Luke. That's what Luke would do. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like, there's one of the Fate of the Jedi series with where he's fighting his nephew Darth Caedus, and it's the whole structure is kind of on fire, and he's holding this rope, and I just envision like the destruction of the Death Star and all of them fighting on it in my head, and then it collapsing because all these Force sensitives are just too strong from this wreckage, and it's just crumbling with these crazy lightsaber blows that are happening. And then in that mist too, because Leia is feeling all this happening, you know, she dies, you know, because she also, whatever happens to her in the movie, you know, and that is the path where like Kylo Ren realizes his mom is gone. And then, you know, just like in the Rise of Skywalker, you know, finally comes back, you know, maybe he's not completely redeemed, but this is a different choice where he realizes he doesn't need to be a complete asshole anymore, you know? So I don't know, man. It's just really frustrating to me that someone like that, Rian Johnson, who's got so much potential in the world to come back to this franchise, I just feel like that That decision right there, even with everything that happened in this movie, that decision of killing Luke Skywalker created irreversible damage to the franchise, in my opinion. That damage will never be undone, and I think Star Wars will have to recover from that for the rest of its creation. So that's how I
Yeah.
feel.
No, and that
Yeah.
feeling,
It just makes me think
it's,
of Legends
yeah.
Luke, and it makes
it's
me
totally
shed a
valid.
tear.
Yeah. I think I see where the Ryan Johnson and like whoever's in charge of this movie, they're like, we need Rey to be the it person.
Mm-hmm.
And my opinion is Luke Skywalker is such a great character and so overpowering when he's in all of these scenes that like I think that I don't know how it would work if he was still alive, because then everybody would be like, well, why doesn't Luke just do this, and this? You know what I mean? Luke can do this. Why do we need Rey? Like,
Well, he's
I
an
think
old man.
I think that's why I think that's why they felt they had to do that, which I understand, where it's like Luke is such a great character. He's my favorite character that I wouldn't want to see Rey. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't want to see Rey do all this stuff. I want to see Luke. Like Luke's here. Luke's doing this. Luke's doing that. Like it's similar to like, I mean, Yoda dies in episode 6.
Yeah.
Like we barely
Yeah.
see him.
Yeah.
It's kind of that same thing where it's like there's no like there's no reason for him to be there anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like and maybe that maybe if we got more time with Luke training Rey, then it would be more like it would be easier for everyone to swallow, where it's like, hey, like there's an actual like skills, lessons, whatever has been taught. There wasn't, I don't think, enough of that to justify killing him. But like that's just kind of where my head's at, where it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's
I'm
a fair
not
point.
so offended that they killed him. Like I like that's he's my favorite character, but I'm not
Yeah.
offended that they kill him, because I think
Yeah.
Yeah,
on
I
like a
understand.
meta level, it's like
But
I feel like
Connor,
I know where it is.
But Connor, you could have started the Rise of Skywalker with Leia and Luke training Rey. Like,
Yeah, no, yeah.
I don't like. I hear you about the whole Luke Skywalker. Woo, I understand. I like. Trust me, bro. I'm the people complaining about his death. I understand. But like, if I saw that Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker relationship in the Rise of Skywalker, like them together, like master and apprentice, going off and tracking down the Emperor in Exegol and fighting these whatever Sith Citadel and Eternal and everything, and Kylo Ren shows up, and it's just like I don't know how I would not love seeing that, and then even have more respect now for Rey, which I do. I like the character in general, but I just feel like there is no reason for me to not accept Rey anymore at this point, because now she has been christened by both Skywalkers that are alive. Like it's just I don't know how you missed that opportunity, because Rey doesn't even have her Death Star moment where she blows up the Death Star in this whole trilogy outside of killing the Emperor. But that's only one major thing that she really did to save everybody. Luke blew up the Death Star, and then he defeats Darth Vader, and then and whatever else happens in the Return of the Jedi, because of Vader kills the Emperor. But I don't know, man. It's just I really do feel like if you have that piece at the end there, and Luke is still alive, I don't know, man. It's just I just don't see how we're not talking positively about Episode 9, and we're not talking positively about the sequel trilogy. We could all have frustrations about the sequel trilogy, but I just feel like 9 fundamentally is a better movie, and it's going to make you watch 8, and then it's going to make you watch 7. And that's what makes a good, not great, a good trilogy, in my opinion. So
yeah. I totally understand where you're coming from. It's just I think that would have been really hard to do.
Yeah.
And because we see like in the original trilogy, Luke like is with Obi-Wan for the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
and then he's on his own, and then he's with Yoda, and then he leaves.
Yeah.
So and then he's with Yoda for like 5 minutes. So
Hmm.
it's like we've never seen that relationship in the prequels. Yes, in the prequels,
Yeah.
yes, because of
Exactly.
it's completely different. But
Yes.
like because I feel like the sequels are trying to go after that original trilogy like
Hmm.
vibe. Like we've never seen a Jedi with their master like doing things. So I think that's probably the blueprint that they were looking to try to take. And it's unfortunate that Carrie Fisher passed away too, because
Ugh.
that was supposed to be like
Yeah.
her movie.
Yeah.
Episode 9 was supposed to be her movie where whether or not she becomes a Jedi, like we can that's a different point, but I'm just saying like that was her movie to guide Rey and do
Yeah.
this. Like Luke got her time, Han Solo gets her time, Luke gets his time with her, and now Leia gets her time with her. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's where like it doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Sorry,
right.
Daddy Sheep. Yeah, I want Daddy Sheep because I know I've just been
Yeah,
throwing
we
No,
just been
like
fuck- we just been
throwing the
yapping. We've
haymakers.
just been yapping.
no, you guys are good. Like I said kind of off the air before this podcast is
Yeah.
these two are a lot more versed in 8 than I am. I will say that I just keep bringing up 9, but like I can't stand that film.
Yeah.
I will say like I see your point, Connor, of like kind of following the original trilogy. Like, oh, it kind of made sense that like the way, at least from what they were seemed like they were trying to do was like 8 was with like Luke with Rey, and then 9 is going to be like Leia with Rey. But obviously, Carrie Fisher passed away, and I think at that point, like Carrie Fisher passed away like during the filming of 8, right? So that was
Yes.
like
It
part
was
of
like
my.
right before release that they let us know that she
Oh, it
had
was
passed.
right before. Okay,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that was part of my problem with the film was like I mean obviously that's something they can't account for, but then that she survived 8 and then Luke dying, like that's what like kind of like upset me a bit of like, oh, like then what are they gonna do for 9? And then we got 9, and then I felt the whole Palpatine thing was just rushed in my opinion. Like they kind of were like scrambling, like we talked about the directors changing, like they needed to do something, and the infamous quote, somehow Palpatine returned. but
I
Well,
I don't
I
actually don't
think
think that's a bad line, honestly,
uh
because I think that is very Return of the Jedi. Because you only see the Emperor once in the entire trilogy before that. He's mentioned once before that too, but then like all of a sudden, like, oh, the Emperor's here. Oh, okay, this guy's real. Oh, guess what? He dies in the same movie. And as much as I love the original trilogy, you can't make those same mistakes in modern day media. You're going to get torn apart. You do not have that George Lucas type of aura and vibe and feel because even he was torn apart for the prequel trilogy. You know, so that is not going to fly. And that's another problem that I have with this freaking movie is killing off Snoke when you have nobody else to replace him. Because even as much as I love the Last Jedi for Kylo Ren, he is not the villain. He's not a villain. He's a evil character, but he is not, in my opinion, a villain that's going to make a character like Rey better. Because you cannot have good heroes without phenomenal villains. You know, this trilogy was missing its Darth Vader.
yeah,
It really was. I was hoping Snoke would step up to the plate. But
really.
we didn't. Yeah, I mean, I do think that the Emperor being shown in Episode 8 probably would have helped a little bit. Like, oh, he was pulling the
That was
strings
my
the whole
biggest
time.
biggest thing is like you said in the original shows, like yeah, I mean they mention the Emperor and then they show him in 5. Like you knew he was the big bad. Like you knew about Vader, but with the sequel trilogy is like Emperor's not mentioned at all. And then in 9, within 2 minutes, he's back. And that's where like I had a problem with how they set that up. I will agree with you that it seemed like the sequel needed a big bad. But I will say I was just kind of intrigued like when they did kill Snoke. The kind of reason I liked this because like I wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh, like this is really out of left field. And then it seemed like the way they were ending 8 that yeah, Kylo showed some of his good side, but still showed that he could be a villain. So I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna roll with Kylo as like the big bad for 9, and then that kind of didn't really happen. But yeah, Connor, what did you think about like Snoke's death in 8? I kind of I wasn't too upset about it.
Yeah, going off your point, Johnny, I think, and this is not like a podcast to just completely destroy the Rise of Skywalker. I
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah, yeah,
everything
yeah.
that you're
That's I'm
talking
turning
about,
it
no,
into.
no, but I
Yeah.
think everything that you're talking about, if the Rise of Skywalker was like put together better, like those gripes that you would have with there not being a big bad, like this, like all that stuff, like would have been fine because it was leading up to something. But this movie feels like it leads
It
like
leads to.
at the end of this movie, you're like I was like pumped to kind of see like, oh, what's gonna happen with Kylo?
Yeah,
Like
I
what's
was
gonna
like
the resistance is
still kind of
basically like
excited to.
gone. Like
Yeah,
what's gonna happen? And I think that for me, episode 9 was just like basically almost ignored this movie that I
yeah.
think
It just wasn't connected at all, and that's
for
my
me
big
it makes
problem.
it worse,
Yeah,
which is like in the entire like this movie by itself I really like to watch, but like conjoined with all of the other movies, it doesn't make as much sense. But like with Snoke, I was obsessed with like trying to figure out who Snoke was. Like
Yes,
some
same,
people were thinking he
yeah.
was like
same.
A
one of
young
the
man.
like some like I thought he was one of like the first Jedi. Like in the Octo Temple, there's that person,
Oh, the Prime
there's
Jedi.
that little the Prime Jedi, yes, the Prime
Yeah,
Jedi. There's that statue of or there's like the little picture of the Prime Jedi, and it looks like Snoke, like kind of looks like Snoke. There was like a ring that he had in like one of his like
Yes, the Obsidian
the
Ring.
obsidian
Yeah,
ring, like dude, like what is that, like is that keeping him alive, like
yeah.
that stuff I was super excited for. And I absolutely love Andy Serkis's performance as
Amazing,
Snoke. I think
amazing.
yeah.
he
It was
is
really good.
he's probably the most underrated actor in all of Star Wars, with him just being
Two rules.
Snoke, him being in Andor, like that, like I love him so
There it
much.
is.
But yeah, I don't mind them killing Snoke. I actually thought it perfectly plays into the fallacy of the dark side, where he is so confident that he thinks he knows what Kylo Ren is doing. And he knows what Kylo Ren is doing. He's just too arrogant to realize that he's doing it to himself.
Mm.
And that's something that we've seen with Darth Maul, where he's like, "Oh, I'm making fun of Obi-Wan. Like I already killed your master. He's right
Yeah,
over here. You
yeah.
see him?"
Yeah, blinded
It's like,
by the
oh,
hate.
I threw Ray around like a rag doll, like I'm so powerful. And
Yeah,
we see Palpatine do it in episode 6, where he's like, oh yeah, like I'm just gonna kill Luke, like yeah, let's go. And he doesn't
yeah.
notice anything else that's
Doesn't
happening
even
around him.
notice Vader is. Yeah,
So I think that they played into that trope perfectly with Snoke.
I think they did
Um,
too.
Yeah, I don't know. I yes and no. That's how I feel. Like I like those parts because it bolsters Kylo Ren so much, and it amplifies that in the Last Jedi novelization. Last Jedi novelization mentioned, So because I actually really enjoy a lot of the parts of that book that the movie that I do not like in that book because of the description and how they correct things. Not really correct things. They help me understand more.
mhm.
Um, but I don't like how Snoke is practically omnipotent. And even for me as like a big Kylo Ren glazer, I'm just like, I mean, the way he went out was like, yeah, he turns his lightsaber, like, all right, like, it's not like the Emperor where like the Emperor is literally like about to kill Luke Skywalker, or turn into the dark side. This is like the ultimate plan for this guy, like nothing is really happening for Snoke. Like he's just making his apprentice finally become like 100% full and loyal to him. And I guess
Yeah,
that
and
was
kill it
enough.
right.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And so it's just like there's a difference because like Kylo Ren's not Darth Vader grabbing you by the freaking waist and throwing you off the freaking Death Star. So that was just a little bit harder for me. And it happened so quickly that I literally thought that Snoke didn't die. Like I was just like, oh, he's gonna get back up. He's fine. He's gonna be like
puffs,
like
puffs.
it's gonna be Dragon Ball Z, and Frieza's gonna be rolling around with just his upper body and killing people. That's how it was gonna be. No, they literally show, and that was the other thing too, is that when Kylo Ren and when Kylo Ren wakes up and Hux is there, and Hux is sitting there looking at the throne, and then the body falls over
Yeah,
and this like goofy comedic way, I'm just like, again, with like the Marvel stuff, it's just like I don't know if that's the correct way to make someone like me understand that this dude is not getting back up. He's dead. You know, maybe if his body was like burning or something, like, okay, all right, yeah, this guy's done. I don't know what's happening here. Or Kylo Ren gets up and force pushes his body out of the way, just like he does in the Kylo Ren comic, and throws him out the damn hangar into space, which was crazy. That would help me understand, like, all right, Kylo Ren is that dude. Like, he's a bad man. But yeah, it's just frustrating for me because, like you say at the end of this movie, oh, where are we going? I am not excited, bro. Like, I am not excited. Luke Skywalker is dead. The Resistance has 6 people. I'm looking at this freaking thing and I'm just like, I am not gonna play Fortnite with them. They are trash. You know, like that's how I feel right now, bro. Like the First Order won. What is there to talk about? We're gonna talk about Tamori, Broom Boy. We're gonna get excited about him and his little friends talking about Luke Skywalker. How the hell they figure that out? Because no one is listening to the freaking podcast that's happening when they're crying to have people help them about the First Order on Crate. There was nothing about that movie to get me excited for the next one because I truly felt like the movie was like the series was over. It was done. What are you going to tell? Like, what is there left to tell? And that was with also that I knew that Carrie Fisher was dead too in my head. So it's just hard for me to be like, all right, at the end of that movie. So it's just a lot to take in, bro. A lot to take in at the end of that movie. I do not see the hope at the end of that movie. Even at the Empire Strikes Back, where Luke Skywalker gets his hand chopped off, at least we see him get his synthetic hand, and the rebellion is like ready to go and flying back out there. That is not happening at the end of this movie. They're hurting, Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, no, I see where you're at.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things that I do love is when Rey has the broken lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, what the hell are we gonna do?
Yes.
And then we see that like she has the books from the Jedi Temple.
Yes.
So like there is like some sort
That
of
kind of
hope.
gave me hope. Yeah, I was about to say. I
Mm.
was excited for that as well as the kind of see Kylo's character was gonna go. So that's where I
Yeah.
kind of like a little disagreement with you on that. Of like not being excited. I was kind of excited to like because it was like damn like the First Order won, but like Rey is gonna like continue to learn. Even though I was pissed that like Luke's just had a force just force disappeared, pieced out. I was kind of excited to see where that was gonna go.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
one of my favorite scenes is the scene of the kids like
Yeah, with the broom.
talking about the legend and
Yeah.
Broom Boy, like
Broom. Never to be seen
because
again.
that to me is like what I did when I was a kid. Like I thought of Luke Skywalker, the legend, because word must have gotten out that he had saved whatever. And like that's what I did as a kid, where I'm like, oh, I'm playing with this little thing that I'm pretending is Luke Skywalker, and like that for me, like really hit me with like my nostalgia. And then when you see that there is still hope, there are still other people out there that you know have the Force, and people that are looking with the ring. He's got his resistance ring because he was there when um on Canto Bite. Like
Yeah.
that to me is like, oh, there's still something to look forward to. We still have people
Yeah.
that are going to fight. There's still good things in the galaxy.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. I hear what you guys are saying. It's just harder for me to comprehend that when that movie was not about Luke Skywalker, the legend. At the end, which is, in my opinion, like one of the best scenes in Star Wars, is where he actually shows up. It's got one of the best soundtracks,
Dude,
which
when
is
he shows up
the
against
Spark.
Kylo. Yeah, he
Yeah,
has so much aura.
that movie, I was terrified and shaking because I was so emotionally like just wrecked through that movie, sitting there depressed, and then I see Luke go out there with his Anakin Skywalker lightsaber, bro, and just doing his thing. And that soundtrack, The Spark, is I think it's called The Spark, where he goes out there, bum 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 bum, and I'm just like, oh shit, is he gonna die? Like, are they gonna do this? You know? And then it turns out he's freaking Nomi Sunrider with the doppelganger, and projecting across the galaxy, which is awesome.
Yeah, I was sick.
But yeah, but there is nothing telling me that the galaxy is listening and watching, because you get the message that no one gives a shit about the resistance, you know? And that was like the biggest thing, is like that scene is just a reflection of Ryan Johnson, in my opinion. Is like, I care about this character, Luke Skywalker, so very much, because we've all been waiting to see him for 40 years, right? But then, like, even in the universe, nobody cares that this guy is there trying to fight against the First Order, who's basically like the last hope. Yes, he sacrifices himself so the resistance can get away and they can fight, and the broom boy. All right, cool, great. But like, how am I supposed to feel when the lightsaber is broken? That is like the most important lightsaber in Star Wars. How am I supposed to feel that one of the most important Jedi in the entire franchise is dead and never coming back? How am I supposed to feel that the resistance is only like 6 people, and Rey barely got enough training for me to be excited that she can even be someone that I care about in the last movie, going against someone like Kylo Ren, who literally just killed one of the most powerful Force sensitives in the galaxy, So it's like, that's why at the end of that movie, I'm just like, you're trying to get me excited about something that I have no interest in getting excited anymore. Like, you took it away from me, and it's hard for me to, it's hard to buy me back, and convince me that this is going to be a movie, that I should be ready for.
And I think that you're supposed to look to Leia for hope, because
okay, yeah,
she
says she is holding them together.
She's the one that delivers. She's the one that held them together. She's the one that's like, like, we have like a plan. Like, you have to like do this, this, and this. And she's the one that says we have everything that we need right here.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be her arc in the next movie, but we can't, because Carrie Fisher unfortunately passed away.
Yeah. That is even more tragic.
Which I think may, like, when you said that you were watching the movie, like, oh, Carrie, like, we're not going to get any more Carrie Fisher. Like,
yeah, that
may have had like that's something like meta level where you're like, well, what are we going to do now?
Right.
But
right.
Which is something that we can't, which is something that they couldn't control, because they finished the movie.
No one
and stuff like that. So like, it's hard for me to dock points to the movie where it's like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. We finished, like, this, Leia, this is your movie, and then like the actress, like, out of world, like, is like, we don't have Carrie Fisher anymore. So like, in my opinion, you're supposed to look to Carrie Fisher. She's gonna be the mentor. You're gonna look to Leia. She's the mentor. She's gonna teach Rey all this stuff that she knows. Her brother was Luke Skywalker. We have no idea exactly what she has been at that point. We have no idea what she's been doing with all of the Force, with all, like, what I mean? She was such, like, she was going to be the beacon of hope, because she is the original.
She set up for that.
She's the original person that's in Rogue One. We see, like, what did you give us? Hope. Like, she's the hope. That
she was the first hope.
And
yeah. That makes a shit ton of sense. That does, straight up. But now I'm even more upset at the last Jedi I saw, because
and then we got that.
Yeah, only because it's just another reason why you shouldn't have killed off Luke Skywalker that early. Like, I just still think like that is just too early, But even what do you do? Do you recast her in the Rise of Skywalker?
Right.
And is that too sudden? Is that too soon? I bet they probably thought about it, and they were like, nah, bro, they already hate us for killing off Luke Skywalker, bro. I don't want to get shot, So that's sad. That's very depressing, even more depressing than I was left when I saw The Last Jedi. So, it's just a lot of stuff about that movie. And although I've trashed it, I will say I still think that movie is the best looking Star Wars movie of the trilogy.
Got some great visuals.
Yeah. I think
whole hyperspace, like, ship, like, going through hyperspace, crashing through. The flagship is like such a nice shot.
Yeah. Also, another thing too is, like, we haven't really talked about this, but I think we can all say that Finn was clearly sidelined. Rose Tico, who Kelly Marie Tran is an amazing person, and the way that she was treated in this entire movie was absolutely disgusting. If you're one of those people, you need to go. You don't even be here. We don't
Mm,
support you. I think we all say we don't support you. Get out of here.
yeah.
But um, as those characters, I did not like the Canto Bite arc.
You got the Space Casino?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not like Space Las Vegas or wherever
Yeah.
else you want to call it.
Like
I
Space
just
Vegas. Yeah. Yeah.
not interested, and I think that was another reason why I probably had a very hard time trying to enjoy this movie, because I just wanted to see Luke and Ray. I just not even that I wanted to see Luke. I wanted to see Luke and Ray. Like I really needed the Anakin and Obi-Wan. And the Luke and Obi-Wan, or the Luke and Yoda. Like I really wanted to see more of that, because if we're passing the torch, you need to make me feel like you care about passing the torch. And I just felt like this movie was not doing that. And connected to the Finn arc is Phasma, who is one of the coolest characters in the trilogy that absolutely goes nowhere again.
Yeah.
And to be killed off again so early. 3 characters in this movie that should not have been killed off or couldn't have been replaced: Luke Skywalker, Snoke, and Phasma. Like, Phasma is such a huge representation of what, like, Finn's arch nemesis, like everything that goes wrong with Finn and people like Finn. And then you kill her in the second movie, where not only could Finn's arc could have been much better with the whole Coruscant rebellion, Stormtrooper rebellion thing, but like Phasma should have been like the bread and butter, like every day. Like, this is like, where there's Batman, there's the Joker. Where there's Finn, there's Phasma, because I feel like Phasma should have hated everything that Finn was, which she did, and should have always been a thorn in Finn's side. And why are you killing off this character so early again? Because even though Ryan Johnson doesn't come back in the last one, it still makes me feel like this guy was only going to get this one shot, and then that was it. So it's really frustrating to see these characters that I thought were going to have a much longer story get cut in half.
I will say about Finn. Finn is one of the. I just got so upset because I loved Finn in 7, and I thought
Yeah.
he was going to be so much more important to the story. I would have loved if he was, well, it was always hinted that he was going to be force sensitive. I feel like it went nowhere. He was like in the first trailer for episode 7, the first guy you see is Finn. And I know
Yes.
Ray is like the main character, but I thought they were gonna do something like Finn's like the co-main character, and it was force sensitive. And I feel like it was just a huge missed opportunity in 8 with his arc with Rose and kind of doing like the side space thing. It just felt a little clunky to me and was just kind of disconnected from the main story. Um, yeah, I kind of agree with you there. Dagovere. Even with Phasma too, like killing her off was like a little weird to me as well. Because that was like a big part of Finn's story from 7 is, him being the ex-stormtrooper, which I really like that arc too in 7. It's just
Yeah. In an era where you're trying to persuade people in with these like anti-woke bullshit that you keep hearing about, whatever, like, you need incredible female characters, female actresses that are talented, and that is one of the best, one of the generation. This girl was in Game of Thrones for so long. Like, why are you casting away this moneymaker, bro? Like, what are we doing? What is the decision making in this film? And that's just another thing that I get really frustrated about, because she could have been right there with Hux. But you imagine if Hux and Phasma at the end of that movie turn on Kylo Ren, like,
almost did.
that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. Anyway, so
Connor, what do you think about Finn?
Yeah, no, I was I really wanted him to be like a Jedi. Like I think that
Yeah,
would have been
I feel like
really,
so missed. Like,
yeah, I think it would have been,
it.
yeah, no, I think it would have been really cool for him to have a bigger role um in this movie. And the Canto Bite stuff I could just skip through, really. Like, and there I feel like there's like
Put me to sleep.
almost every so many Star Wars movies, there's like that one for me, like there's that one point where it's like, like
yeah.
just skip through
This
it.
didn't need to
Yeah.
be
And
here.
Yeah.
that's this for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And that's this
Yeah.
for me. Like it's I don't feel that there's really any, I guess, point to it.
Yeah.
Like nothing really changes that much.
Yeah, and I think that's also a problem that I have with this movie is like it's not helping these shitty ass fans that are attacking these people. You know, you got two people of color that you put on this arc, and then it's the weakest arc in the movie. You're not helping them. You are not helping them.
Mhm.
You know, yeah. So that's really frustrating about all of that. Yeah, man. But I, again, I'm very happy for the people that love this movie because at least you guys do. You know, because I, as someone that loved the prequel trilogy and was thinking it was the greatest stuff ever, you know, like I cannot stand people that don't like what I like, and it really hurts where I'm just like, this is excites me so much, and they're just like, nope, I ain't
Yeah.
watching that crap, you know, and it's one of the worst feelings in the world, you know. But I'm glad that people like you, Connor, exist, you know,
Right.
and Dyad and all these other homies, you know, that I know, because there are some really, I love the Praetorian Guards.
Yeah, the whole
Mhm.
throne scene is one of the coolest in Star Wars, honestly. That fight is awesome with Rey and Kylo against them.
Kylo Ren is such a beast in this movie, bro.
He is
Like
one. I love that.
literally chopping the heads off of these Praetorian guards in this
Yeah.
movie. Rey is struggling with two. And I
Mhm.
don't understand how so many people call her Mary Sue when like she's struggling in like every corner of this movie, and not only like physically, but also like mentally,
Yeah.
intellectually. You know, she just cannot. She's just not as fast as everybody else. You know, and yeah, Praetorian guards are amazing, dude. The supremacy, the supremacy is sick, bro. What are you talking about, man? That thing is sick. I love the noise
Yeah.
that it makes when it appears. Um, and yeah, again, the final scene I think is amazing until it's not. Yeah. So, but there are some really
There's
great parts of this movie because even me, when I sit here, I still think this movie could have been the best Star Wars movie if Luke doesn't die. If Luke doesn't die, there's a journey there to be had to see like where we started and where it's going. But because they did so many things that I talked about, it's just so hard for me to say, yeah, I see where you were going, but I just can't. I all I see is damage and damage that not only from the movie itself, but also events like Carrie Fisher dying that just can never recover from, you know. And
Mhm.
to me, it's a tragedy, bro. Like it is a straight up tragedy that has happened to Star Wars when it comes to that because I really hope in this new journey that they're going with Ray that there is a plan
that
and there
officially
is
happening?
yeah. Oh, well, I mean, well, yeah, her stuff has been in the making for a while. She's been
Yeah,
talking about
I've
like
heard
the
about it. I
random.
just didn't know if it was like 100
Yeah,
actually doing it. Okay.
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that one and there's supposed to be like 3, 4 movies that are supposed to be in production.
It's supposed to be
On
yeah.
top of Dawn of the Jedi, but like 3 of them are supposed to be like her movie, like hers, and then the Ryan Gosling movie. They're all in that same sequel era.
Equal era.
So yeah. Which is good because they need it. They need time to like actually
Yeah, they could
write
maybe
their
enhance the
characters out.
sequels and maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I will
Yeah.
say, I'm a prequel lover. There, like you kind of noted, Dagovere earlier in the last pod, is like there's a lot of people that didn't like the prequels, but I feel like things like Clone Wars really enhanced the prequel
Yeah.
trilogy, and maybe this new show could do that to the sequel trilogy. So I am excited for it to learn more about Rey and.
Yeah.
If give me some more Finn, please. I need that man. I need him. I want his character, fleshed out some more. So I think that would be awesome. Which speaking of Finn, I got one last thing for you guys on one more scene we didn't talk about. What did you guys think of Finn almost sacrificing himself? At the end of that movie for everybody, and then Rose coming in and saving him. A lot of people didn't like that. What do you guys think of that?
I I thought it was well, you see Finn go throughout this whole movie where he's like, I'm not part of the resistance. Like I'm not part of the resistance. I'm not part of the resistance. Like the whole entire movie. Like, and then you see him finally decide to kind of just like, hey, like I'm just gonna go for it. And I'm glad that he did not sacrifice himself. Um, and because they need everybody that they can get is basically like that message. I don't like the fact that they kiss. Like I think that was kind of out of nowhere. I think it was just like it just didn't make sense to me. But I think that decision for his character was good, and I think it makes sense for his character, but I think they could have done it a better way not to kill him.
Yeah, I don't have anything like majorly positive to say about that. I also think that it was weird, and again, it's just I think this movie was obsessed with killing characters. And I don't know if someone stepped in and said, "Hey, we can't do that to this guy too," because yes, it a lot of that arc, especially at the end where she just kind of falls over and passes out after that, and then after she kisses, it's just like, and then at the beginning of the Force Awakens too, it's just like, did we forget like they were romantically interested in each other? With Finn and Ray. Were we skipping over that? Did we bring another character in here to take that away and start the whole dyad thing with Kylo Ren and Rey? It's stuff like that, because don't even get me started on the whole sex scene that this movie has, which I also think is weird, but Star Wars has always been really weird with romance, and I think it needs to stop, honestly. Man, but jeez, but yeah, it just goes into the, what was the plan, what were the ideas, and this is probably why we shouldn't allow people to come into the franchise and just have the keys to the car.
Yeah. I think that's the moral here. It's literally that. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like this like what not to do with Star Wars and the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, but that's always going to be the problem. That's going to deter amazing creators from coming in here and really setting the bar. I don't know how Tony Gilroy did it with
Andor. The Andor reference.
Yeah, I have no idea how. Honestly,
he proved it's possible. They gave him the key.
Yeah.
But he respected it.
I have problems with Andor, but like when I look at Andor and I'm just like, I look at The Last Jedi and I look at Andor and I see two paths. One was the correct choice and one was not, so it can happen, but how do you replicate that in every Star Wars project? More importantly, how do you replicate that in the movies? Because that's what you need. You need Andor, but people go into the movies to see this, and I really hope that we do not have to deal with another Last Jedi ever again, because I just cannot take the fandom fighting each other and wanting to kill each other like that.
Yeah, anymore. That was quite the time.
It still is.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, it still is.
If you go into any comment section of any video that mentions The Last Jedi,
you're set off a storm. I'm well aware. I've seen your comments.
No, it's bad, bro. I will say The Acolyte was very similar.
The Acolyte was pretty similar. Yeah, it was pretty toxic.
The Acolyte, for sure. It's just hits that I don't think the franchise should consistently take. I just made that whole Bleeding the Crystals video, and I know and there's some stuff in there because I had to talk about like why Osha did it and Anakin couldn't, and it's just like I don't like making lore videos like this because I cannot make the blind see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I know Connor, I know you have to deal with that more than I do, but
yeah. And then, what I remind myself is that it's not your job to make the blind see. It's your job to talk about what you want to talk about and express how you feel. And then everyone else can do whatever the hell they want, which is why I don't engage in a lot of the comment sections for different videos. Like I'll engage with like the positive comments or like people asking questions in these, but like
crazy comments.
People are just like rage baiting and people are like
just love to hate.
They love to hate. And I don't know. I mean, honestly, you, Dagovere, may have it worse because if you have a video that pops off on YouTube, I think that's a way different toxicity than we get on.
I've gone through it because of reactions.
Yeah.
And I got put on Nerderotics channel like 3 or 4 times, and that is really frustrating, to say that my excitement for projects is disingenuous when I'm so against The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, So it's frustrating that there are people out there, but it does not matter, guys, because that's why I just like I understand. I think more so than a lot of these other newer fans because I was a prequel fan, and then I witnessed firsthand people talking shit about Ahmad Best and Jake Lloyd and Hayden Christensen and the prequels in general and Revenge of the Sith, talking about it was over choreographed back then. I was just like, shut up. Shut up, bro.
Yeah.
Just stop, man. Like, and I'm not saying like that's not a valid criticism. I'm just like, I'm tired of hearing every little thing about like why you don't like it. And if you're so obsessed with not liking it, why are you even here? You know,
Yeah.
why are you even here? You know,
Yeah.
I'm here because I want to hear why Connor loves The Last Jedi. Was there something that I missed?
Yeah.
Genuinely, like, am I too stupid to realize the significance about Luke Skywalker's arc? And no matter how much I get talked about it, it's just like, it's even more that I learn, it gets me more frustrated, you know? But there are points that I understand, like, yes, Luke Skywalker needs an arc in this movie other than I'm going to swing my lightsaber, you know, and destroy things because I'm Luke Skywalker. You know, I'm the Superman of Star Wars. But that's the point. That's the like the most amazing thing about this is like coming together with someone like you, Daddy Sheev, and Connor, and I'm just like, yeah, well, XYZ, Last Jedi, you know, and then you're just like, nah, son, get this. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I gotcha. You know,
Good
we
to,
can never find that in YouTube comments though. Never.
Yeah, you can never have this conversation anywhere else, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you would talk to the majority of people who enjoy Star Wars in general, that their opinions are not like
Extreme.
damn. They're probably somewhere around here, like most people.
Loud minority is what you really hear in comment
Yeah.
sections and on the internet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will say this. I will say this though, is I do not think the loud minority works for something like The Last Jedi because I believe that movie is 50-50. I truly believe that movie.
It was, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And even something like The Acolyte. I would say in most cases, yes, there is a very vocal minority. But when I think about The Acolyte and The Last Jedi, no, I think that it's very even, and I think that's a problem because in a franchise like Star Wars, like Mr. Ryan Johnson says, you know, I want to make a movie where people love and hate it. That cannot fucking happen. Like that cannot happen. You need to go balls to walls to make this shit the greatest Star Wars to the point where 90% of the people love it, because that cannot happen in Star Wars. Because now it has the threat of being just like every other franchise, of being recasted or reset. And that cannot happen in this franchise because that alone makes it so different than everything else, you know? So that is the hardest pill to swallow in all of this, I think, is realizing that self-reflection that there's damage done, you know?
I never even thought about the fact compared to other franchises that you like can't reset. Like we know that.
Yeah.
But it's not something you
It's
understand.
such a polarizing of a film.
Yeah, no, but even to the point where like Marvel's got comics and books, you know, Dune has comics or books, you know, all these franchises that we're talking about today that are relevant today have comics and books. Star Wars, yes, has comics and books, but they did not start off as comics and books. This is a movie only franchise that started it all. You cannot fuck up like you mess up in all these other franchises because you cannot reset. You cannot recast.
Those are the biggest projects.
Forward or backward or adjacent. You cannot reset. And that is the problem. You have that whiteboard and that blackboard. And when you start writing, it needs to be as perfect as possible because you cannot erase ever.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anything else? That was quite
I think
chat, boys.
Yeah, I mean, like I like The Last Jedi in my mind with my rankings and the way that I feel about The Last Jedi. I think the peaks that I feel about this movie are are so high
Yeah.
that they outweigh, like we talked about, like the stuff that I don't even think about really. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you bring some stuff up where it's like, oh, this happened, like this happened. It's like sometimes I'll like forget that that happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'm the
on my
same way for
psyche,
Revenge of the
yeah,
Sith. I'm the same way for Revenge of the Sith.
yes.
Your Last Jedi is my Revenge of the Sith.
Yes. So it's like the peak, like the way that that movie made me feel at its peak was like
Yeah.
something that is like it just makes me feel like as a Star Wars fan, like it made me feel special. Like it made me get that special feeling of like, hey, like this is Star Wars. Like Luke is sacrificing himself for the greater good. Like that stuff hit me. And that's what I remember about the movie. Not that, like, I don't remember a lot of the Canto Bite stuff. Like, I haven't seen the movie in a little bit, so it's like that stuff's not on the forefront of my mind. But it's just like the way, and that's for all Star Wars projects. Like the way that Andor made me feel, the way that The Last Jedi makes me feel, the way that Empire Strikes Back makes me feel. Like all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's more about the feeling that I get while watching it, than the nitty gritty of the details and stuff like that, which is what Dagovere, I think you are very good at dissecting the plot points, like the
Yeah.
repercussions of all this stuff. Like for me, I'm more of like a, hey, this movie made me feel really good while watching it.
Yeah.
And I am less tactical with dissecting like plots and stuff like that. So I think
But I approach it the same way. It's just when I analyze it, I really
Yeah.
like. I think it's because I call myself the master of suffering and the master of failure, and it's just because I've learned so much through losing and failing, you know. And so when I see this decision, I see it like quantified, but just like we fucked up. Like this is really bad, guys, you know, because no one's ever going to say anything to hurt me as much as I'm going to say about myself,
Mhm.
you know? So I see this other person's mistake, like you killed Luke Skywalker. You can't bring him back. This isn't a video game, bro. Like it's over. It's a wrap. Like that is a permanent decision for the rest of our lives that we're going to have to deal with. And then what happens? Carrie Fisher dies. That's a permanent decision now. You can't go back on this, you know? Like it's not just the character Leia dying, bro. Like this is the actress herself is dead, you know? So it's like when I'm writing this, if I'm in the room where it happens, bro, I am making sure that blood, sweat, tears, everything goes in there. I am not fucking this up, you know? I am not messing this up, you know? I'm not saying Rian Johnson messed it up or anything like that because he's a great director, but it's just like this franchise here is sacred. And if we're going to cook, we need to make sure that the people that are putting these ingredients in are doing it right. That's it. That's how I feel.
Hey,
Yeah.
I think that's
yeah. I think we cooked today, honestly.
yeah.
We've been cooking. Yeah.
Some would say we are in the room where it happens.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's so funny, dude. You know. I don't even like musicals, and I understood that. Like I was just like room where it. I was like, yeah, okay, all right, you know.
This is
But
a
I always
Hamilton. This is a
writing all the time.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
This is a Hamilton. I have Aaron Burr somewhere. I have a Funko Pop of Aaron Burr
Yeah.
somewhere around here.
That is so funny.
So yeah, I think that's probably where we should tie things up with a nice and neat bow.
Yeah, man.
We all still love Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Everybody loves Star Wars.
Yeah.
Still love Star Wars. Everybody's got their opinion.
I will
Yeah,
always
guys.
watch it, bro. Yeah,
I'll still watch a movie. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, even if I have Dave Filoni come to my house and say, "Dude, you are too much of a super fan. Chill the f out. Like, relax." You know, I'm still gonna love it. I'm still gonna be hyped as hell. I don't think anything's gonna change that. Even if I get 10 more Last Jedis and Acolytes, I will still love it, baby. You know,
will be there.
that's what it's about. Yeah, I'm a Miami Dolphin fan, bro, and I've supported mediocrity for a while, bro. Ain't nothing like Star
Dude,
Wars.
nothing can hurt you like that, huh?
Yeah, exactly, baby. You got it, baby. I'm here. All right.
We love it. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We love you all. May the force be with you. And I think that's a wrap.